Adverbs are an important part of a language because they express how an action is done. When we want to describe how often the action is done, we need to use adverbs of frequency. There's always somebody at home in the evenings. There's always somebody at home in the evenings. I'm usually home by 6 o'clock. I'm usually home by 6 o'clock. It normally takes 20 minutes to get there. It normally takes 20 minutes to get there. I generally get up at 6. I generally get up at 6. I've often wondered what happened to him. I've often wondered what happened to him. Buses frequently run between the city and the airport. Buses frequently run between the city and the airport. He sometimes writes to me. He sometimes writes to me. We occasionally meet for a drink after work. We occasionally meet for a drink after work. They seldom watch television these days. They seldom watch television these days. She hardly ever goes out. She hardly ever goes out. She is rarely seen in public nowadays. She is rarely seen in public nowadays. He never eats spicy food. He never eats spicy food. Sarah always goes out on Saturday evenings. Sarah always goes out on Saturday evenings. Ben and Emma often go for lunch together. Ben and Emma often go for lunch together. In the winter, Sarah sometimes goes skiing in France. In the winter, Sarah sometimes goes skiing in France. James and Stephen rarely go to the cinema in the summer because they prefer to stay outside. James and Stephen rarely go to the cinema in the summer because they prefer to stay outside. As Claire is so busy she never gets home from work before 7. As Claire is so busy she never gets home from work before 7. Always lock your car. Always lock your car. Never ever tell anyone your password. Never ever tell anyone your password. There are always lots of people in the city center on Saturday nights. There are always lots of people in the city center on Saturday nights. But our friends are never on time, so it doesn't matter if we're late. But our friends are never on time, so it doesn't matter if we're late. As is often the case in English, there are variations to this rule. For example, it's possible to put the adverbs sometimes and usually, at the beginning of a sentence. Sometimes she does her homework with friends. Sometimes she does her homework with friends. Usually they study on their own. Usually they study on their own. Never in all my life have I seen such a horrible thing. Never in all my life have I seen such a horrible thing. How often does he play tennis? How often does he play tennis? How often do the trains arrive late? How often do the trains arrive late? Do you often come here? Do you often come here? Do they ever pay on time? Do they ever pay on time? Does she always work so hard? Does she always work so hard? You must always try your best. You must always try your best. We can usually find a seat on our train. We can usually find a seat on our train. They should never be rude to customers. They should never be rude to customers. I have never visited Turkey. I have never visited Turkey. He's always taking things from my desk. It's really annoying. He's always taking things from my desk. It's really annoying. You had rarely arrived late at work until yesterday. You had rarely arrived late at work until yesterday.